Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wise Words TV. Today, I'm joined by Rhiannon, who is the founder of Lem-uhn, the feel-good PR agency, which I love that tagline. Tell me how you got to where you are and how that tagline came up, because I think it's a
Yeah,
really
I think the
interesting
tagline was
story.
definitely an evolution and it kind of came with time. 4.5 years ago,
Yeah,
5 years ago, I was working in big global
yeah,
PR agencies. 91% of PR professionals have mental health struggles each year, and it's the same stat every year, sadly. But then the pandemic, it was even intensified even more. So lots of my colleagues were put on furlough, and those of us that were left were working really crazy hours. Like you'd start working at 8, probably wouldn't finish till about 11, work on the weekends as well. So I wanted to work for a better type of agency, basically, that cared about its employees and worked with better brands. And I couldn't find one. So like lots of founders kind of fell into starting Lem-uhn, kind of was just freelancing for the first month under the umbrella of Lem-uhn, and then luckily the appetite grew from there. And I think it was just a bit of an evolution of what we were doing, really working with those good brands. And I'm such an advocate for PR and the power of that it can do to grow your brand. So the fact that you can do it on the good guys and not the bad guys is really important, because there's lots of agencies, I think, that are just growing those fossil fuel polluters or fast fashion and things like that. And that's not something we want to be doing. We want to be growing the people that are making the world a happier place.
yeah, that's so interesting. This stat, I did read your stat, must have picked it up from your website or LinkedIn or something, but it's very interesting. I did my degree in PR. I started in the PR agency, and it
Today I was looking at
yeah,
a gift guide that one of our clients has appeared in print, so it still happens.
oh, you have to do that like months ago, right?
Oh
The
yeah.
Christmas gift guides. It's like July or something. But yeah, so back then I didn't see that much of the hustle culture that I think is really actually so ingrained, particularly in agencies in general. But I think PR generally does seem to really have that hustle culture where it's like you are expected to work long hours. If you're not working the long hours, you're not doing your job properly, which is crazy to be still doing that now. Do you think that's still the case now? Do you think COVID changed anything with that whole work-life balance thing?
I think
Rose a little
agencies
bit.
generally, I guess the model is if you have less people doing like on more accounts, then you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
And I had lots of colleagues that would leave the industry altogether as well. So it doesn't work in the long run. I think that kind of whole work-life balance boom after the pandemic seems to have gone again. I think I've seen lots of offices trying to call employees back to the office 5 days a week, and kind of lost all that flexibility. And it seems like it always comes from the top, and it's someone saying, oh, I don't think people are working, even though those people probably aren't in the office themselves looking at if anyone's working or not. So yeah, it's really sad. I think especially like from an inclusion perspective, because there's lots of working parents. Quite often it's the mum that ends up doing lots of the childcare, or people with disabilities or different needs. So when we are kind of fitting into that old school work pattern, then it's just leading to more exclusion and less people getting into work. I mean, the government, even in the recent budget, they were talking about wanting to get more people into work, like young people and people with disabilities, if they're not going to be flexible in the approach.
How do you do it in your agency then? What's your employee flexibility structure like?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we did have an office before, and for a couple of reasons, I was working in different countries at that point, and our employees didn't really want to work in the office, so we went remote in May 2023. It feels like last year, and I always want to say last year, but the time's just flying by.
Yeah.
And then we've always had quite flexible hours anyway, but I think going remote makes it easier to be even more flexible. So we have a work from anywhere policy for up to 45 days a year, so employees can work in countries with a dual taxation system to the UK. Employees really wanted it, and it took us a little bit of time to introduce it because you have to check the legalities and the tax and everything. Flexible hours, so we have core hours of 9 till 3, and then if employees want to, they could even work all the hours Monday to Thursday if they want, or they could kind of work flexibly around that. I spoke to a journalist from The Independent last week about a trend called micro shifting that lots of people are doing, and I didn't know that we're kind of doing it without knowing. So it's when you kind of, for me personally, I'll start working about 6:30 and I'll do like an hour, then I'll go to a gym class, then I'll work again in a cafe somewhere, then I'll have a bit of a short lunch break or maybe pop out somewhere. And it's that pattern where I think lots of people are working flexibly. So that's something a few of us do as well.
That's
Shifting. Yeah, it's just a PR. Obviously, someone's put on it to get the press coverage. But yeah, one of our employees, she does like 2 half-hour breaks instead of an hour lunch. So she'll take her dog for a walk in the morning and then have a bit of a later lunch. We're very flexible working, and it seems to work really well. We're a startup and don't have the huge budgets of these like massive global PR agencies, but having these kind of benefits that are actually not in many agencies that don't cost us anything seems to do as well.
So have you taken advantage of the work from anywhere
Yes, I
policy at all?
have. I've worked in Barcelona quite a lot, Mexico, Bali, Portugal, yeah, lots of different places. But it's really nice. I think lots of people they're like, oh, it's so grey. I'm in London, so everyone's like, oh, it's so grey in London, because then they just get like your 2 weeks of holiday a year, more flexibility. I really like living in London, even though today it's very grey outside my window.
Yeah.
But having that flexibility to not be stuck here for 12 months of the year, I think it makes you grey UK.
Yeah, knowing you probably wouldn't even do it, but knowing you could go somewhere is different to feeling like you can't.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
So,
Most people, it's something that employers can really deliver for people, but they don't seem to be doing it. I mean, it's great for us because it means that people want to come and work for us, but actually it'd be great to have a world where everyone's got more flexibility. If we could fix that, I think everyone would be a little bit happier.
do you feel like people are interested in that flexibility message as a kind of anchor into the feel-good message, or do you tend to how do you hierarchy that message when you're talking about
I think like B2B PR is always harder, especially in agencies, because it's just not that exciting. No one really wants to hear about it. For us, when we've been in the past, it's always been speaking about like employee wellness. I was on BBC Radio 4 doing a slot about that, or we did another BBC piece on work from anywhere schemes. We've done some stuff on our menstrual policy as well. I did a story with City AM just on like the story about why I launched Lemon. And I think that was as well included that 6 months into running the company, a company with a similar name tried to sue us. So we had to rebrand and change our name and everything. So that's been something that's been of interest. But with PR, it's always fitting into the topical stories that people are talking about. And people are always talking about flexible work and unique things like policies that we have, like the work from anywhere policy or menstrual leave conversation. Actually, more interestingly, this month I've done quite a few pieces on the I'm a Celebrity stars and how much they're going to earn after the jungle.
Why? What made you start talking about
someone
that?
got in touch with me and from the Daily Express and said, could you share a comment? Hello. And then I just after that sent a pitch out to some showbiz editors, because obviously it's very topical at the minute. There's been quite a few pieces, so it's been quite nice to have an excuse to be like, I have to watch TV tonight because I've got this comment to put out. So yeah, it's really interesting. I think that's quite like a popular story to comment on anyway, or like Strictly Stars or anything relevant from that perspective. They actually earn way more after the shows now than the money they get to go on them.
Yeah. So you sound like you're good at doing your own PR, because I think that's an issue. That's what you usually find with PR, like especially small businesses and startups, like the PR agencies. Same with marketing. I'm a copywriter, and like you're good at doing it for clients, but you don't necessarily spend the time doing it for yourself. Like, you don't you're a marketer, but you don't market your business properly, or you're a copywriter, but your website needs redoing, or you're a PR agency, but you don't do your own PR. Do you set aside time dedicated, almost treat yourself like
have
a
in the
client?
past. We're not doing that now, because the reactive stuff seems to just do way better things. So we have lots of different platforms where there's different opportunities from journalists, and those are usually easier, or journalists will get in touch with us, or if we see something reactive, we'll jump on it, like that micro-shifting journalist. I pitched out to a few journalists and spoke to The Independent. But yeah, I'm very big on practice what you preach, because I think it's always quite hard to trust someone if they're not doing it for themselves. So yeah, we try, but yeah, as you know, things get pushed away. But yeah, really trying, I think in the past year and a half, probably to do more of the marketing side of things, because it is way easier when you do put yourself out there and people come to you when you build the credibility, rather than having to chase clients down and things like that. There's never enough hours in the day to do it all, really.
Yeah. So because I think PR is one of those things as well, like where it's almost a bit of people don't get it so much if you don't know what it is and what you're doing. And I think a lot of businesses maybe think, oh, we'll do PR later on. We'll do PR when we're a bit more established, and they focus more on the paid media instead. If you had one tip for a wise word, let's say, for a founding business, startup business, just one thing they could do to help get their word out there from a PR point of view, what would you give?
I would say kind of 2 points. But first, read the news. I think lots of people actually aren't consuming where they might like read the news in their favorite publications, but actually you should be reading where your target consumers are as well. Stories are included in them, and look at where your competitors are covered and things like that. And then I would focus on, if I was kind of completely new to it, I'd probably go to regionals first. The BBC and ITV are great as well, because you can go to their local regional section. But then quite often, if it's a good story, it will also get picked up nationally. And with the BBC, for example, you can then get an online piece, a TV piece, a radio piece, just to get your confidence. Because I think so many people that I speak to that try and do PR on their own just get really disgruntled because they'll pitch out and no one will get back to them, because PR is really hard and you have to send so many emails and chase so many people.
So do you advise people to do that? So you sent out a story to a journalist. How many times do you chase them before you're like, okay, they're probably annoying?
Yeah, well, it's all about kind of sharing something that is still useful or new information, or like saying, I think it's relevant now because this is coming up, or things like that. But I would continue to chase them, probably less often. If, we had a interview of the Times that our client had already done. It just wasn't coming out. So I think it took about 10 chases before it actually came out. And she was like, oh, sorry, thank you so much for... But journalists are so busy. They just get so much on their plate. I would say, and then depending on if they're not replying, it could be like once a month or once every couple of months. Hopefully they'll get back to you and say, sorry, stuff's been pushed along. And then, if it's, you trace them in another quarter or something. But do keep following up with them, just making sure that you're doing it and sharing relevant information so you're not just chasing them for the sake of it. When I started in PR, what we were told to do is you'd send out a press release and then straight away you would call the journalist and chase them and say, have you got the press release? And then the next day you would do exactly the same, which is crazy. And I think some agencies probably still do that. But I think it's really important to build those relationships, especially these days. I've seen lots of journalists will post on like X saying this PR and name and shame them if they get annoyed at them. So it's definitely a delicate balance.
Yeah. Yes, it's very hard because your reputation is everything if you are in PR. So you have to keep everybody happy in a way, don't you? Is there anyone like it could be PR, it could be business in general, that you aspire or look up to, or whose kind of methodology or ethos or wise words has inspired you in what you do?
I think what Whitney had Wolfe did was really inspirational. She's obviously a very different industry. She founded Bumble, or if you haven't heard it before, she was on the founding team of Tinder, and she was sexually harassed and got pushed out of that. She did take them to court and get some money from them, and the money that she got, then she started Bumble, and the whole ethos behind it was to make it a better type of thing and to put women in control, things like that. So the fact that she probably took one of the worst moments in her life, which is the kind of the notion of my podcast. Actually, I have a podcast called Lemonade Leaders. I think it's when people take their lemon moments and make lemonade. That's what she did. So I think it's really inspirational, because sometimes when people have these horrible times, it's crazy to think that they're actually going to go and do something incredible with it. And I think she was also like the youngest person to raise on the American stock market, the youngest billionaire. So it's all of that. I'm sure she had a lot of help as well. But it's really inspirational, I think, in this day and age where we all want to try and do it all. We get told that we can't sometimes, but it's nice to think that we can and have inspirational leaders like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Founders, and they've got that, like, that get the press time and the coverage and the platform, have the platform to inspire people like that. That's crazy. I haven't heard that story before. So talking about your podcast, you must hear loads of really cool stories like that. Tell me the premise again.
So Lemonade Leaders is about leaders who take life's lemons and make lemonade. People that have had one woman, she had a stroke 7 days after having her baby, Funmi, Noelle, had all those issues that you do have when you have a stroke, and one of them being she'd need people to put on her underwear even, so she lost that independence. So she created Clip Nips, which is this underwear brand where you can clip yourself into them rather than having to pull them up over you. The things that have gone on in her life, but I think lots of people would be pushed down by, but she's done amazing and building this great company. And there's lots of stories like that, cancer diagnosis, loads of stories like that, and then actually taking it as inspiration to build incredible things, which is always really inspirational, and it's very motivational when you hear these stories. If you're feeling a bit down one day, you're thinking, oh, my life's pretty good actually, I should really get out and be productive.
Yeah, I bet. You've always got this bank of inspiration to call back on. So how do you find guests for the podcast? What do you do? Do you look around for stories yourself, or do you put the word out?
I just posted like a Google form on a few different groups I was part of, and luckily lots of people applied. So we had over 100 applications for it. So then it was just looking at those stories that were really those lemon to lemonade moments, work that goes into it. making the podcast. But yeah, it's really great. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, it can be quite hard to a PR agency because it's not the most exciting topic. So it's just given us something different to speak about in the press, basically. And we've had some nice press coverage off the back of it. So it's just a different tool, I think, to get your message out there and raise awareness of what we're doing. And it's very linked to all those purpose-led businesses creating a better world. So yeah, it's been really interesting and a very new skill for me this year.
Yeah, it's a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. And you just have so many different hats, and we build so many different skills that probably wouldn't have if we were in kind of a normal job.
So we were talking before about video editing and that kind of thing. It's just like you find yourself doing stuff and you just like, I would have never thought that I would end up editing a video, doing satellite audio. Oh yeah. The thing is,
I was just going to say, yesterday I was trying out this new tool that tells you how many like AI search results you're appearing, your company. And on the back end of our website, and I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? And I could do it. And I was very proud of myself because like all that tech side of things. Yeah, so it's always really rewarding when you can do those things that you thought you couldn't.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it? Do you outsource anything like that? Like as in the kind of the tech stuff or the editing stuff? Is there any way, like, because it's really interesting for founders and small businesses where we can do everything because we've got these amazing tools now. And so we kind of do. And then because we're doing everything and spending time in the back end of the website or whatever, it has a knock-on effect. We're not growing the business or doing stuff actually in the business. So is there anything that you outsource or do you try and keep it all?
Yeah, luckily, great team as well. So I don't have to do all of this stuff all of the time, which is really great. Yeah. There are some things that we outsource, obviously, some of the accounting side of things, legal things and stuff like that. I also too recently someone who potentially might help with the website. But yeah, I think it's always just one of those things on the long list that I might get someone to help with the website, but then they said they're going to have to change it all over to a completely different platform. And it seems like a long project rather than what I thought it might be. But yeah, it's definitely something I think as you grow as well, you kind of want to outsource more of it. And those things that isn't your strong suit, it's always worth getting someone else to help because they're going to spend a lot less time on it and be able to get it done way quicker than you would.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the biggest lessons to learn is just that idea of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And I find that really hard, just like letting go and just being, someone else can do this. I don't have to do it.
Outsourced recently.
Oh, I mean, I wish I would outsource everything. I do the same as you, like the accounting 100%. Numbers are not my thing. So there's no way that I would be able to do anything remotely financial. So I do outsource that. Over the years, I've outsourced stuff and taken stuff in, the social media side and VAs and worked with other copywriters, lots of different things. And it's just trial and error. It's kind of like some stuff I actually find I really end up enjoying in the stuff that I didn't think I would. Like if I've spent the day, I don't know, I've got a YouTube channel, so maybe I've recorded a video. I'm creating a newsletter from it, and I've ended up doing sometimes at the end of the day, I actually feel really fulfilled by things like that in a way. But yeah, it's knowing when to draw the line and be like, okay, now this has taken me 4 or 5 hours and it should have only taken me half an hour. So, it's just that. Sometimes I enjoy that kind of thing as well. It's just different.
Yeah, I think there's also all the unpaid helpers that we have, like our loved ones that actually... I have quite a few friends that work in HR, for example, and sometimes I'm like, can you look over this contract for me? Or people that work in business or marketing. So I think there's always those people that end up doing stuff because they just want to be cheerleaders. So they're always really great to have those people in our lives.
Yes. So who is the wisest person that you know?
It's a really hard question.
Or know of?
I'm not sure did you watch the Celebrity Traitors that was on recently? Yeah, so it was really interesting on that. So this is a spoiler if anyone hasn't watched it yet, but the people that did the best, you would think they'd be the most intelligent people, like your Stephen Fry's, or there was another guy who was like a historian that was really clever. Actually, yes,
David.
But actually the people that did the best and could catch the traitors were those people that had high social intelligence. So I think it's so interesting that the best degrees are the kind of maths or science or, like Cambridge or Oxford, but actually potentially people that haven't got your school smarts might be the smartest people in our lives, which is a bit of a side note from your question. But I think it's really interesting. Those people that maybe society wouldn't think are the smartest people have a lot of smarts.
it was a very interesting to watch how that unfolded on the Celebrity Traitors. I think the whole of the UK was tuned in for that final. You're right. Almost intelligence or book smarts there went against you because you were overthinking or overanalyzing everything. But it's good to, I think, going back to what you said about having friends in different areas that can do different things. And it's maybe not one wise person that we have in our lives, but a series of people that are wise in their own way, and we can draw on everybody's skill sets and expertise.
Yeah, definitely. That's why it's always so great to have different people in your lives for different things. My sister and her wife, they both work in marketing, so I'm always messaging them about things like that. With she works in HR. So yeah, there's lots of different people in our lives, or even kind of my parents who are not in the business world at all. You know, listen to this podcast. What did you think of this? And kind of give their insight. And everyone is always really happy. Your biggest cheerleaders, which is always great.
Yes. So last question then. If you could have a dream group of people that would advise you on life and business and all the different parts of life, friendship, relationships, who would be on that board of people? It might only be one or two people.
Yeah, it's that question as well. It's kind of like who would be the funnest to hang out with, or who would actually probably be the most practical. It's like the dream dinner guest conversation. It'd probably be way funner to have loads of comedians there, but actually maybe the best people would be those who can tell like historical stories or monumental moments and things like that. I mean, like I was talking about before, Whitney heard Wolfe would be amazing because she's built this incredible company. But yeah, I think there's lots of different people with different skill sets that would be useful to have. I'm a solo founder. I always think it'd be great to have someone who has more of the like finance brain, operations brain, who's more detail orientated. Jealous now of people who have co-founders. But then I hear stories as well of people who have had rifts with their co-founders. So at least I haven't got any of that. I would love to have someone who has that detail orientated brain to complement maybe my more like marketing, salesy, creative brain.
Someone who you could just turn around to and say, like, what were the figures on from last year and what, because I don't hold figures in my head.
Yeah, or
like
to get them to do that AI back-end website thing I was trying to do yesterday. But I guess like people, when we're like solo founders or freelancers, actually you have to learn way more things. It's probably good for our brains really to be learning and developing a little bit more, because even when I do outsourcings or even, for example, with the podcast, I wanted to learn all the editing and stuff before I gave it to anyone in the team. A little bit about it and where it is before you outsource it.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably a very good point.
No worries.
Well, thank you so much, Rhiannon, for coming on. Where can people find you if everyone wants to find out more about
Yes,
Lemon?
we have our website. Someone tried to sue us 6 months in, so we had to rebrand, and our name is Lemon, but it's spelled phonetically, so we could copyright it and no one could do that again. So it's LEM-UHN. So our website is lemon.com. We're also on Instagram, LinkedIn. I've actually started just trying to do some personal branding Lemon stuff recently. So I am on TikTok and Instagram as A Zest of Re, trying to do some PR tips and insider stuff and put more time into that marketing that we were talking about. And then our podcast is Lemonade Leaders. So yeah, we're in lots of different places really. Just trying to make the most of all that marketing we should be doing.
Yeah. I like your name.
Thank you. Yeah, there's this woman that she has this film company called Celia, and she had something called, I think it was Tiny Celia or something, and her company's called Tiny Studios. So I was trying to be inspired by that and take a zest of it.
Nice. Yes, no, it's really good. I like that. Zest is a good name as well. There's a name. Well, thank you so much.
It was so lovely to speak with you. Thank you.